This is the Talk on the Block. I know you're looking for a follow-up to this morning where you're following this big star. And all I will say this time, what you will hear might shock you. There's a different twist. The very big story we've been told, but we're doing our investigations. Don't ask me on my cell phone. You know I won't answer you. Wait until we follow this one very closely. But we're here to talk about other important issues on Talk on the Block this afternoon. Stick around. Talking the National Physical Development Plan. We've spoken about that before. We have a head of the Physical Plan and Division, Development Division here with us. And of course, the consultant on that plan. Stick around and find out everything that you need to know. This is the Talk on the Block. We won't waste any more time. Good afternoon to you. How are you?
I'm doing fine, thanks.
You're doing fine. Tell the people who you are.
Okay, I'm Annie Edwards, Physical Planner at the Physical Plan Division.
And good afternoon. My name is Rory Baksh. I'm the planning consultant based out of Canada.
All right. And we're here, not for the first time.
No, we were here earlier.
And you did promise that you would be back. All right. So this time around, what are we focusing on?
Okay, this time around, you have been hearing a lot about the National Physical Development Plan, and this time around, we are here to present, or the consultant Rory is here to present the final draft to cabinet, to different ministries, and also to the public.
All right.
But what we also did was to tie it in with what we call International World Tongue Planning Day. Tomorrow is International World Tongue Planning Day, and we thought, what better time to get this National Physical Development Plan out there to the public than now. So the planning department, International World Tongue Planning Day is actually tomorrow, and the Physical Planning Division has organized 2 days of activities. Both days are open days, so we are invited members of the public to come to the planning department. We'll have a tent in the yard, and officers will be there, to explain to you more about the planning process and answer any questions you have. And also you'll have an opportunity to meet face-to-face with Rory. So we want people to take advantage of that. And what is World Tongue Planning Day? It's just a day that planners all over the world highlight their work in the field of planning and bring attention to different planning issues that are of burning concern to people. So we would like members of the public to visit the planning department between tomorrow and Wednesday. And in addition to that, we have a town hall meeting at the UE Center tomorrow afternoon from 7 p.m. That's when Rory will be officially doing a handing over of his hard work that he has done with Dominicans to the general public tomorrow 7 p.m. at the UE Open Center. But today he's here with us, and he'll be giving us a preliminary insight into what the National Physical Development Plan has in store for us.
All right. So the National Physical Development Plan at its final stages, if we could say that. That's what we will be presenting to the various stakeholders, Warren.
Yes, that's correct. The important thing is that stakeholders have been involved throughout the entire process, and a draft was actually presented earlier this year. So the good thing is that stakeholders will also get a chance to see how the feedback they provided during the stages of the draft have actually been incorporated into the final. And it's just our continuous way of showing that we've been listening to Dominicans and that the plan has actually been shaped and almost written entirely by Dominicans, because it's their voices and their passions and their inspiration for the future. That is really what this plan talks about.
You've been doing this for how long?
The Dominican National Planning exercise has been ongoing for 2 years, since December of 2014.
So when you say stakeholders, who was involved in that process?
It was a wide range of people, from the everyday citizen to members in the government and specific agencies, technical staff, as well as we received feedback from permanent secretaries, and we had made a presentation to cabinet as well in May of 2015. So really, every person from every walk of life has had an opportunity to provide some input into this long-range plan for the future.
All right. So what is it that you were trying to find out there, Rory, with that consultancy about the plan that you're about to present? What is it that you really wanted from the people?
Well, the thing that we wanted from the people is we wanted people to tell us about the future for Dominica and how that future connected to choices around land. There's a lot of things that we want as individual human beings. We want good drinking water. We want a safe home to live in. We want to either have a business that is prosperous or be gainfully employed in some type of industry. And we want to provide a lifestyle that supports ourselves and our family, and encourage us to have a family and stay in Dominica. And funnily enough, when you start to connect the dots on these things, you realize that a lot of these matters ultimately touch the land that we have here in Dominica. If I want good drinking water for the long term, then it means that I have to manage the land around the rivers to make sure that the rivers aren't contaminated. And that's really a land use planning type subject. If I want to have a good house to live in, then I have to think about how that house is part of a neighborhood and how that neighborhood is part of a town or village. And that's a land use planning subject. And so many other things that we actually care about for our future ultimately come back to how well we plan our land. We know that Dominicans care very much about their land, and it is part of the Nature Island identity. And I think everyone wants a brighter future for themselves, and this plan is about answering those questions. What can we do better to make the next 20 years better as well?
All right. With us too is one of the senior planners in Dominica, Mr. Roll. Good afternoon to you too.
Good afternoon to listeners, everybody. Yeah.
All right. Of course, Mr. Rory is about to present the final plan, if you will. I just asked him about the stakeholders, and when we say stakeholders, everybody was involved in this session.
Yes. All the government agencies were involved. The plan would also take into consideration all the plans done by individual agencies. Yeah, agriculture is doing some type of plan. Forestry, we know what forestry, where the lands are preserved in terms of forestry. We have the national park, so all that would be in the plan. The tourism ministry had done a tourism development plan some years ago, so that would be incorporated. And then the individual business people and individual farmers and everybody gave some kind of contribution to the plan.
I asked that question, and I'll tell you why. Why I'm asking, if all the stakeholders were involved, because a lot of times you ask the people that matter, if you will, the people, to give an input in that final draft. And most times, I say most times, that, these thoughts or suggestions or recommendations are never considered. Rory, why is this time different?
This time's different because the very first conversation that we had started with citizens. That first conversation happened in January of 2014. And the way that we are learning how to do planning better around the world is, rather than planners and specialists sit in offices and work on plans and then bring them out to the public months later and say, please trust us, we are the technical experts, we know what's best for you, we ask for your input, but the work has been done. That's the way it's traditionally been done over the many decades past. Our approach now is to begin the process with stakeholders at the very beginning. The first conversation we had was not about planning. The first conversation we had was, what do you love about Dominica? And that question was asked with a great degree of care, because we wanted to get at the root of what this country is and what people really believe in, and then to begin from that point to then shape a plan that was talking about the future and how to use land. And those early discussions come back to things that, as I continue to walk around Roseau and Portsmouth and Marigot and talk to folks that are taxi drivers and hotel owners or running a rum shop, they all tell me the same thing, is that there's a sense of universal value here in Dominica around the wonderful amount of food that's available on this island to support the healthy lifestyle of the people, the vast quantities of fresh water that people have that sustain our health of our individual citizens and communities, and the fact that Dominica is very much unique, unlike so many other Caribbean islands that are overrun with development. Dominica has seen some growth and development over its history, but because there's been a certain pace of it, we now have the opportunity to carefully harness the opportunities that lie ahead and guide them forward, so that we are at the same time seeing prosperity while not eroding what is the unique cultural aspects of Dominica. It is really something that is, again, voiced by the citizens, and the philosophies and the values are within the plan that we've created. And it's like that because it started from day one, from that very perspective.
All right, let me ask Mr. Roll here. What are some of the major concerns that you have with the Dominican public as it relates to the understanding? I still think we have a lack of understanding, and you two can contribute in terms of, what is it, where we can build, where we can't build, and some people think that you guys have some priority as it relates to some people versus the other. What are your concerns?
Well, the whole issue of land, in a sense, is kind of dynamic, is in that there's a lot happening to land. You see it there, but there are people who own it. They might be interested in selling it or cutting a piece and selling it. And the people who are selling it go to a professional. So the professionals have to guide them as to maybe what's the size of lots that they should cut from it, or whether they're allowed to cut it up, or if they cut it up, what uses that it could be sold for. At the same time, the individual themselves want to know what they can do. Everybody wants to know what they can do with whatever land they own, or somebody else is also interested in that piece of land. So people want information on land. And the planning division is the area where the place where you go to get that information, what you can do with the land, how you can do it, whatever. So this is.
But is that information readily always available, Mr. Rowe?
It's always available. It's always available. People, just that the people have to come to the planning division. The professionals also have to advise the people to come to the planning division. When I say professionals, the architects, the land surveyors, the engineers have to advise the people to come to the planning division and get the information. We have the consultations we had were advertised. If some people don't come, some come, but that's the nature of how it is. But people generally just have to come. If you get sick, you go to the doctor has to tell you what. You cannot just decide on your own. And that's it.
You want to make a contribution, yes?
Yeah. One of the landmark things that have happened in Dominica is Tropical Storm Erika, and it really brought home to a lot of people.
Brought to reality, yes.
Yes, the importance of building their homes in the proper place, and finding out first what hazard this place is facing before you buy the land. A lot of times people would stay abroad and buy land without even seeing it, and this thing just has to stop. You cannot do this. So in addition to the other types of information, right now at the planning department we have a wide range of up-to-date data, mapping data, telling you about all the different disasters we face, all the different risks that are faced. So before you make that decision to buy a portion of land, you have to get into the mode of going to the planning department, checking it out for yourself. It's not high-tech information. The map is there and you can actually pinpoint where that piece of land that you want is. People have to graduate to that point where they make informed decisions for themselves before they build.
All right. Are you there, caller?
Yes, I'm still there, my brother.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, blessings to you. Mr. Roland, the other guest.
Yes, go ahead.
It's not my intention to offend, but I'm just going to be on point, and please be candid and truthful with me. I am saying having to do with national land, particularly within national parks. What are the role of planning where government wanting to access reserve land like a national park, like we're hearing about the Kempinski Hotel? What was the role of planning? What was it that government could just go within a national park and get 15 acres or 20 acres? What is the role of planning? Were there any consultation? And if there were, why did you override rules having to do with preservation where national parks are concerned? Thank you.
Anybody want to answer that question?
Okay, a number of years ago, we did a development plan for Portsmouth, and I think also the people of Portsmouth did a development plan. They did kind of merge our development plan for Portsmouth with their own, I think, to some extent. And I know that we had the zoning plans at the department. We had zoned the lands around Cotton Hill, Bell Hall, Cotton Hill area. We also zoned lands close to the National Park areas suitable for tourism development. That area where the Kempinski Hotel is being built was zoned for tourism development because of the it's being located right next to a beach and other factors that were taken into consideration. Then the government did go to Parliament and took it out from the National Park. They did what they had to do. But we did look at it sometime.
So they removed it from the national park zone?
Right.
As a result of legislation?
Yes. But it was an area that we had done some research on and we had zoned it for that purpose.
All right, so you still feel it's still safe to build hotels, huh?
The development is going on, but I mean, you have to do, the company has done an EIA and there are certain things we ask them to address and we're looking at it, we have to monitor it and so on. So it's an ongoing process.
All right. As part of your national plan, would you be, would that all of that come onto the microscope in terms of where you can build these hotels vis-a-vis national parks? Would that come under consideration, sir?
The approach to national planning that we're now taking globally as a result of the impacts of climate change is to first identify all the areas where we shouldn't be building. And the first step in that is the easy step, is to look at where we have, for example, the national park, and we already know that those are protected under legislation. The next piece we have to look at is what are the areas that are subject to the natural disasters in our local geography. So in Dominica, that means volcanoes, that means landslides, that means flash flooding and storm surge areas. And so this national plan has within it areas that are very clearly defined as areas with high natural hazard risk where we should not be building. And that applies whether you're planning on putting up a house, if you're going to be putting up a hotel of some kind, if you're going to be building a business like a factory, or even in the government itself, if it's planning on putting a new school, a recreation center, or even whether or not it's going to extend a road. It's now very clear for all those who have an interest in doing something on the land as to where we should not be building. And only under extenuating circumstances, if we have to put something in an area where there's risk, we now have better guidance to incorporate risk mitigation measures, so that if something does happen in that area, that at least that development is somehow protected by things that we've done in terms of slope stabilization or rerouting of a water course or whatever necessary engineering approaches are needed so that the development is protected. And this is a major step forward for Dominica and will greatly enhance this long-term resiliency and sustainability of the country going forward.
Here's a question, of course, that I see here. How will the plan help Dominica or the Nature Island adapt in terms of the climate change, in terms of the consultation, the plan that you will be presenting?
I think the primary approach really is that of avoiding unnecessary risk for Dominica. What we've learned over the many years of trying to understand and grapple with climate change from not just a physical planning approach, but just a general approach that governments have taken, is we've moved from an approach that was like resisting the impacts of climate change. I think we used to call it climate change preparedness. And we've now moved towards a perspective of resiliency. In a lot of cases, the original approach on preparedness meant that we were looking at investing millions and trillions of dollars in infrastructure to essentially fight what Mother Nature wants to do. And today's approach to resiliency says we recognize that we have to coexist with Mother Nature and there are going to be impacts, and let's do some things that allow us to kind of work within these parameters. So principally, let's avoid areas where we know there's going to be challenges. And secondly, from a resiliency perspective, if we have to build back, let's take an approach to building back better and ensuring that what we do reinstate is stronger than what we may have had put there before. And I think this is the primary approach to climate change, again, that is enshrined in this plan and is explained in this plan.
Here's some very important question asked by somebody in the WhatsApp. Was the 2015 grant of 15 acres of land from the Cabres National Park to Range Capital Partners for the construction of this hotel, Kempinski, a violation of the National Land Use Policy agreed to by government in 2014? I don't know if the consultant can answer that question, or of course the two major physical planners in the house. Was the 2015 allocation of 15 acres of land from the Cabres National Park to Range Capital Partners for the construction of Kempinski Hotel a violation of the National Land Use Policy agreed to by government in 2014? Has the Planning Department approved an environment and impact assessment study for Kempinski Hotel in the Cabres National Park? Who's going to deal with this? But take your time. I'm going to give you a minute here to think about this, and they're going to take a break and come back.
Nature Island Cruise 951 on Live 95. Every day, Monday to Friday, exploring the sights, sounds, happening talk on the blocks, healthy lifestyles, and culture of Dominica. Enjoy daily giveaways of valuable products and services from leading businesses on the Nature Island of the Caribbean. Stay locked and immerse yourself in the breathtaking views from above the undulating hills and valleys, and in the magnificent marine adventures beneath our Caribbean Sea. All this and more on Nature Island Cruise 951 on Live 95, only on the big station. Get a taste of the enchanting Creole and indigenous cuisine and lifestyles of the charming people of Dominica. Experience the dynamic rhythms of our culture, music, and entertainment, our vibrant, unique niche agribusiness products, our refreshing range of colorful flowers, and the fabulous foliage in our horticulture. Explore the prolific life-sustaining values of our natural foods, herbal teas, spices, and medicines. All this and more on Nature Island Cruise 951. Every day, Monday to Friday on Live 95. Only on the big station. Only on Q95.
I need a fast cash to get me started, cause I wanna get ahead in life. When times get rough, you don't have to be tough. Fast cash will make it right. Fast cash.
Get the cash advance you need.
Fast cash.
In just 2 hours.
Fast cash.
Up to $8,000 can be yours.
Fast cash. I need fast cash to get me started, cause I wanna get ahead in life. No matter what the problem, fast cash can solve it. Fast cash will make it right. Fast cash.
Fast cash. Your money, your way.
More great news from Esau Trading Limited. This time on top quality TCL split unit air conditioners. Sizes from 9,000 BTU up to 36,000 BTU. All at unbeatable prices. Yes, prices starting from as low as $1,255.50 cash, including VAT plus brackets.
All right, I'll tell you what. Are you ready to answer the questions now? Who's gonna deal with this? Can I ask again? I'll ask again. Was the 2015 allocation of 15 acres of land from the Cambridge National Park to Range Capital Partners for the construction of Kempinski Hotel a violation of the National Land Use Policy agreed to by government in 2014? Has the Planning Department approved an environmental impact assessment study for the Kempinski Hotel in the Cambridge National Park? All right, let's see who's going to deal with this.
First of all, the policies, the National Land Use Policy is done on behalf of the minister.
All right.
And according to the Act, everything is done on behalf of the minister. Now, if you prepare policy and the minister does not approve the policy that you prepare, it's not not involved. It doesn't have any. It doesn't go anywhere. So they have approved the policy.
But the minister might approve of something that's maybe in violation.
In violation of what? I don't know. I don't know if it's in violation of anything. But then they did go to Parliament.
In violation of the National Use Policy, no?
No, it's not. They approved the policy, but they had gone to cabinet and they did what they did in cabinet.
You don't know what they did there?
Yeah, when they went to cabinet, they changed they removed the portion of land from the national park, and that's what they did.
But isn't that a violation?
No, it's
but if you let's just say that if I move this mouse across here, it's going to cause some problems. But I still do because somebody might just want it moved.
You're anticipating that it is going to cause some problems. Well, we had
but as an expert yourself, don't you think? Because that's the advice that you're given in the first place. But because somebody think that it should go. In other words, you don't listen to the experts. Like, my friend here from Trinidad, who is the consultant, might recommend something, but somebody else might say, you know what, I don't think so. He's not the expert, he is. But we listen to the politicians many times instead of the experts.
Sometimes the experts give advice and the politician does the otherwise. But that's for them to do. But what I'm saying is that we did a zoning plan for Portsmouth, and we recommended development of a hotel development for that section of it. So I don't think.
So you don't think anybody violated anything?
No, I don't think anything was violated. And also the consultant has done an environmental impact study. They have submitted the document to the planning division, and we are in the process of reviewing it.
Have you had a chance to do any work in that area?
I have been up to Portsmouth as part of the work on making sure that I've seen many corners of Dominica and have a grasp of the geography and the different people around the island. It's a very lovely area. Is
it something you would tamper with?
Pardon me?
Is it something that you would tamper?
Well, you see, this is an interesting conversation that we've been having throughout the entire planning process, because in a lot of situations with planning, it seems like we face a challenge where we can only make one decision or the other. It seems like it's a yes or no decision, or it's a black and white decision. And in fact, one of the things that planning is able to do is offer guidance that bridges the space between something that may seem like it's opposed, and find the middle ground between these challenges. And I think that's one of the things that Dominica will be able to do much better in the future is, for example, when we say we're trying to promote environmental protection, and at the same time we're trying to promote some economic development with tourism. And in this particular situation, it seems like we have to choose between the two. This plan will actually offer some guidance that says, here's how we can find some middle ground in that situation. And the community and the developer and the investor and government and physical planning can all kind of work together to find a solution that works really well. And that, I think, is one of the benefits of planning, and I think it's representative of where we are today. In the absence of having a strong plan that looks forward to the future and offers us guidance, we continue to see these kind of challenges.
But let me say here, I mean, because of course Mr. Roll just admitted that they are reviewing the EIA, but in the same breath, this hotel is being built. So what is it that we're saying? I mean, what signals are we sending? An EIA has been done, and a hotel is being built. Can this be done together?
As far as I understand, under the legislation and the rules for planning in Dominica, you have to have an EIA for certain types of development. A hotel of that size needs to have an EIA, and I understand that one has been completed. So in terms of connecting those dots, all of those are connected together.
All right, hello. Are you there, caller?
Yes, I'm there, Matt.
All right.
Good afternoon to your guests. Matt, the Cabris area is an area that has been allocated as a reserved how you call it again, area. In other words, it's supposed to be reserved in such a way that no major construction, as far as I understood, should be taken care of. And remember, Dr. Honeychurch is the one who was appointed as a caretaker for the Cabris area. We have been hearing, and I'm just saying that I've been hearing, that he left Dominica very annoyed and disappointed that the Cabris area that same area was being interfered with for tourism, for hotel development. All right? And he left Dominica as a result. Unnoticed. Matt, a government was ousted years ago. Remember that, Matt?
But you're asking me questions or asking the panel questions they may not be able to answer because that's not, under the purview, if you will. So you may be wanting to ask the politicians those kind of questions, okay? So maybe you should rephrase and ask again, all right? Hello, talk to me.
Hello, Matt. This is Ati Martin.
Hey, Ati, how you doing?
Okay, not too bad. No, but all matters of planning have to do with policy.
Yes.
They originate with policy. Mr. Rowe was making a point previously about decisions were taken in cabinet. And so on. Cabinet can only make policy, but it really, they don't change law. Cabinet does not change law. Parliament is the only one. And that is really what was disturbing and is disturbing, because Dominica has prided itself on creating a substantial portion of its land area as special protected areas. That is what allows us to claim the title Nature Island of the Caribbean. That is what allows us to have water. And the 15-acre hatch-out of land from the Cabris National Park is a reversal of a long tradition of conservation, protection, and resilience, because it is these protected areas that have over the decades given us the resilience and the protection we need to sustain and maintain water, maintain healthy forests, which have become a magnificent and significant tourism product in terms of hiking, in terms of biodiversity, and so forth. So there's a direct link, and I think that's the point that the consultant is trying to make. There's a direct link between resilience and development, and it's not really a choice you're making, because nature has done things in a certain way, and it's up to us to figure out how to maintain, how to improve upon, enhance, and avoid destroying. I'm afraid that the 15-acre hatch-out from the Cabris National Park is a reversal of that legacy and that heritage, because, if anything, it not only takes land out of the park, but every protected area also has a buffer zone, which is in addition to the acreage that is assigned to the park. So over and above the land that makes up the Cabris National Park, there was an area of land outside of that boundary of the park, which is in fact understood to be the buffer zone. So in fact, what we are looking at here is a situation where a physical facility is being constructed, not only using a portion of the park, but actually abrogating lands that were assigned as a buffer zone to the park. In addition, and you heard the consultant again, we are trying to build resilience to some of the most significant threats, including surge and sea level rise. In other parts of the world, people are stopping the building of hotels on beaches precisely because of sea level rise and surge and the danger and destruction that can be caused. Remember, we are also in a tsunami-prone area. We have volcanoes in Montserrat, in Dominica, etc., which can create tsunamis. So if there had been the proper application of existing planning laws and existing regulations concerning conservation and existing principles of climate change resilience, we would not have agreed to put a hotel on a beach, because that is not Dominica's product anyhow. Dominica is not a beach destination. It's a forestry. It's a hinterland. It's a nature at its best in terms of its natural, attributes and so on. So to put a hotel on the beach in an island that has 9 active volcanoes, in an island that is prone to sea level rise, prone to tsunamis, is to flaunt your power as a man in the face of nature.
All right, let me ask the consultant here for his views on that. You just heard this gentleman who is a former government minister. You agree?
I agree in principle that what we need to do moving forward is we need to be guided by the good decision making that he's actually advocating for. What he's saying is really just represents the impetus for this work and the rationale for why we've been doing it and why it needs to be conducted. Is with all the challenges that Dominica faces, there's such little land that is actually viable for development, and we have to use that land very wisely. He's exactly right in terms of why we need planning.
Should we build hotels on beaches?
Should you build hotels on beaches? I'm not within my capability to answer that question.
But given what you've seen, you are the consultant. Would you advise that?
Unfortunately, I'm not a hotel expert or a tourism expert.
But would you advise? We're talking about land use here, not about tourism. Would you advise that hotels are built on beaches in Dominica?
I've been very many Caribbean
Take your time.
There's lots of hotels built on beaches. That will continue forward for a long time, because it is a type of tourism product that appeals to a certain market and works in certain geographies. I don't know if that's exactly what Dominica needs for the future. It's that investor has decided that they are going to make a go of it, and they think that it'll be a successful business. I assume they've done their due diligence. I think Dominica has lots to offer a very diverse tourism market, and I think that's one of the things that.
I'm going to give you 2 minutes.
Yeah, well, Matt, I mean that's the point. Let me go on record. I mean, I'm an avid supporter of this planning exercise. I mean, Annie would know, Mr. Roll would know. I have participated in a few of the stakeholder discussions and meetings, which are all to the good, and I'm a vehement defender of the fact that in a small island state like ours, we have to be even more careful about where we put things that involve the pouring of concrete. And so that is why I believe with all the wonderful upland sites available in the north of the island, if you just go up the hill a bit, just cross the road and just go up the hill beyond, where Social Security has land and so forth, you will see some wonderful sites which would allow visitors and people and guests to enjoy the beauty of the island, while at the same time preserving those highly vulnerable coastal areas for future generations. And remember, Matt, those coastal areas and those beach areas and so on are also important to us for fishing. And so there's a cross-sectoral responsibility that planning has, which I know we discussed when we had some of these stakeholder discussions, and I'm hoping still will be reflected in a comprehensive report, because unfortunately, the people making the decisions about giving the okay for somebody to put a hotel where it is are not the planners. It is the policymakers who have absolutely no training or experience in planning.
Mr. Athimathe, I know, of course, we can continue this discussion to and fro. Do you find that to be the case, Mr. Consultant, right here in Dominica?
I'm sorry, what was the question?
You didn't hear what the question was?
Well, I wasn't sure how...
That they don't always listen to the experts?
That is the same everywhere in the world.
Everywhere in the world. Mr. Rowe, I need you to confirm for me, please, just for the sake of this discussion. Was there a land use policy in 2014 which prohibited the use of this development?
No, the land use policy was approved in 2015.
Mm-hmm. There was not a policy which prohibited the building of hotels or tourism-like developments in that area, in the Cabrits.
No. I don't know.
You don't know anything about that. All right, thank you very much. 1:45 is the afternoon time. Very interesting discussion. Hello.
Good afternoon, Master, and your guests in the studios.
Yes, I'm
still waiting to hear the question answer that was posed by the very first caller, because to me that is a very significant question. And just to make a few comments, Matt, I would like to ask them, what plan do they have for that nature island, and who actually has that plan? And just a thought for us, if it is that, those that are the guardians of the law and the government is corrupt, even if people have to own land, and it is done according to them legally, how is it not possible for the same corrupt, maybe if it is the guardians of the law or the government, to be able to switch or to turn things on them to be able to get that snatch from right under their feet?
Well, I don't know if it's right under their feet. That's what this consultation, sorry, just tied for words there, is about. He's presented a final, yes, tomorrow afternoon. Tell us, Mr. Consultant, what will be in this final plan? Just give us a little hint.
Well, the plan itself comprises about 60 pages of text, and it has a number of illustrations and 3 very important figures. The intent of the text is to tell the story of Dominica, where we are today, to look forward into the future and kind of cast a picture of a vision for the country that sees continued sustainability of our forest resources and our water quality, while at the same time ongoing productivity in our agricultural sector and economic and social development. With future housing organized into a series of settlements where we have improved community facilities and things connected by infrastructure, where a planning decision is ultimately guided such that the vast majority of development happening in the country is away from high-risk areas, and that helps us prepare for the future. The text then explains how it is important that everyone participate in the planning process and seek advice from physical planning division when they're thinking of developing property, so that guidance can be offered at the outset, and we can help you find locations to develop it or invest in Dominica where it will be safe and it's a good idea. Ultimately, it also talks about an ongoing program of investing in Dominica in a variety of different sectors, as well as a public education program to continue to help people understand how important planning is to the future of the country.
Well, the time is moving by so quickly. In terms of settlements and people moving to settle in areas, because right now we're talking about some high-risk areas, Mr. Rowe. In the future, where are we looking at in terms of settlement, or the best place or places in the country to settle in terms of housing development?
Yeah, the plan addresses that. It has 3 different areas, primary areas, tertiary area, and secondary area.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Marigot is one of the areas, Portsmouth, Marigot, Kinnfield area, Maho, Kinnfield, Massac.
Warner as
Warner,
well.
yes. Salisbury.
Yes.
These are some of the safer areas, and these are the areas that we would want people to seek to buy land, because you would move people from very small communities. When you're living in very small communities, the services is a problem to provide water, electricity, proper access, and so on. And then you will move into more larger settlement developments.
So we're talking Marigot, we're talking Salisbury, we're talking Kinnfield, Warner, some of the safe areas.
Yeah, Portsmouth area. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, let's take a phone call there. Hello. Yes.
To you and your guests. As you know, there's a small beach, public beach, at the end of Blue Bear Village.
Yes.
Okay, and it's just before you get to the quarry. The quarry has a long jetty that they built for themselves, and then right by the beach is a temporary, like, rock jetty, right, that a lot of local guys go fishing and kids go swimming up there. Planning gave the quarry temporary permission to use the stone jetty until they got their own jetty built. That was years ago. That barge continues to come in frequently to the temporary jetty at the beach and just park there for days on end. It's unsightly, it's noisy, and kids end up swimming and going and climbing onto the barge, jumping off the barge into the water, swinging on the rope there. Parents, I guess, don't care. But it's a dangerous situation, and it's the one little beach we have here, and why is industry taking it over? It should be open for us to use to swim, or for tourists to use to swim. I want to know from planning, when does that temporary permission, or the permission to use it temporarily, expire? Because it's been years that they've had it and years that they've been using that jetty. It's not there.
Let me allow the lady here to answer the question.
The jetty started off as temporary, but it was converted to something more permanent because I think there was a recognition that it could be used for other purposes. So, for instance, if you want to quick, like, evacuation jetties is one of the things recommended in the plan. So I think after it was set up, it was found that is a jetty that could actually be useful. But one thing I want to point out to her is the location of the jetty in that spot that has actually caused the building up of the beach. You know, when you have these groins or spurs, they cause sand to accumulate at one side and on the other side, would less likely have sand. So it actually, what is the cause of that beach that exists right now? But it became, and the other thing is that although the company has a deeper, I think it's a jetty, but it's built for a different purpose to what that jetty
was built for.
Yeah.
All right. Let's take another phone call, 152. You realize that at the start of the conversation I was saying it's an hour. Hello, talk to me.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Yes.
If there was not that little discussion this afternoon, anybody would not come and tell us why is the reason why they're still keeping the jetty. The woman just making a pass. Bye-bye.
No, she's explaining to you. No, you're saying something else. Hello, talk to me.
Good day to your panelists.
Yes.
I would want to ask your panelists and them that if the barge and them carry ballast water, because I know the ballast water is very dangerous. Thank you.
What does planning has to do with that? You wouldn't know, huh?
No.
All right. Thank you very much. Hello. Yes.
Good afternoon. How are you doing? Good afternoon to your panel. What discussion you having here today, Matt?
I suspect you tuned in late. We're talking about planning.
Matt, I think the people you have on the panel, I think they need to get their information and they act together. To me, I'm not getting a clue. To me, it's a cover-up. The only person I get a good explanation there is Afi. I just would call and make some nice explanation. I'm not saying.
So what is it that you're not clear about? Because you haven't told me. I mean, if you need the panel here to explain something to you, please ask the question. But you're making a lot of accusations, true or not? But please ask the question.
Matt, your program has always been to educate, to learn, and to listen. And you're talking about permission. So far, I haven't get anything there in people saying there. If you just call your program there, I am not saying what he says is right or wrong, but I can get an explanation and understanding in what he's saying. I haven't got any understanding from the panel.
Let me get the consultant to explain to you again what is the purpose of the discussion in terms of this development plan. He has been working on a development plan for Dominica. He's about to present it to the government. I think that was basic information, and that's what he's here for and has been talking about. Maybe you missed it from the very beginning. My apologies, sir. But go ahead, explain.
Yes, what
in
you
a
said is
nutshell.
correct.
Yes.
I think in regards to the caller's question about planning permission, Generally, what we are encouraging all Dominicans to do is to seek the advice of the physical planning department. Planning permission is needed for pretty much anything that you want to build or develop in Dominica. That's the basic rule. So before you go out and build or develop, seek some advice from the planning division. They're there to help you and make sure that you're developing wisely and safely.
Thank you very much. Let's take another phone call because before we wrap it up. Hello, talk to me. And also you can, from what I gather, there's a website that you can also refer to time and time again. If you're thinking of building in the future, where's the best place to build? And all of these questions will be answered.
And we have everything on the website.
Everything.
Everything that we have at the planning department is on the website.
All right. Thank you very much. Hello.
Yes, what's up, my brother? How you doing?
All right, my brother, quickly.
Before I pose my question, I want people to understand QFM listener and not the other station listeners. We listen attentively and we're very intellectual listeners. We want better for the island, so they got to become good. Reason why I'm saying I'm going to the caller that just called just before me, because if those guys have they're been planning, it looks like the government gonna still override them and do what they have to do anyway. So what is their purpose if the government gonna override them and do what they have to do? They can't take the government to court. The government have all their people working on their side.
Are you asking a question or you're making a statement? Are you asking a question or you're making a statement? Hello.
In a statement, and I asked the question, did they consult them when they were doing the geothermal drainage? Because to me it was too close to residential area.
All right. Did you consult on the geothermal too?
We didn't, it's not our expertise, but the plan actually acknowledges that there's a geothermal pilot project and Dominica has resources.
So you see, caller, I mean, that's not his expertise. That's a different set of people as it relates to geothermal. Hello, talk to me. Hello. Oh boy, hi.
Matt?
I'm here.
Okay. Annie answered my question, well, didn't answer my question.
She answered and she didn't answer.
Well, she didn't answer it because what I asked was how long will they have permission to use that jetty? I don't mind the jetty being there. It's stone. It's rocks. That's not the issue. The issue is the barge, that rusty barge that comes in there. Sometimes they scrape it all night long. They're scraping Lord only knows what into the water.
But from what I'm gathering, caller, they're using this jetty. They suddenly realized that they can use this jetty for other purposes. So maybe it's long term now, and maybe you should ask Annie, how long will this last?
Well, I don't, for them to use it as an escape route,
yes,
that makes perfect sense. I don't have a problem with the jetty itself. It's stone.
Right.
There's big rocks there. Guys can go fishing. You can go sit on a rock, watch the sunset. The jetty isn't the problem. It's the barge that comes in there and sits there for days. Bright lights burning, diesel smell, noise, scraping, and they don't care that children are climbing up on the edge of the barge, jumping off the side, swinging from the rope there, and nobody's paying attention. Now, if that's public property, and by the way, there was a beach there when my husband was a child here 50 years ago, so it's not a new beach.
All right. Okay, I wish you and Annie could continue that conversation.
Open this tomorrow.
You're going to open this tomorrow?
Tuesday and Wednesday.
Gotcha.
Open days at the planning department.
Open days, so come in and talk to this people. All right, I'm going to take one final call. Do you mind? Because my telephone seemed to be, full of calls this afternoon. Hello. Yes, quickly.
Convenience store close to the road in Maho.
Repeat again.
The convenience store in the sea.
You have a convenience store in the sea?
In Maho.
What are you asking?
Was planning permission given?
A reconstructed convenience store?
Yeah, some store in Maho. Did you give permission?
Permission was granted for, I think if she's referring to a building that's just completed maybe 2 months ago.
It was?
Yes, planning permission was given for the construction of that building.
My friend.
In fact, I think most of the new buildings that we see in Maho, planning permission was given.
All right, thank you very much. I'm going to leave the final words to the consultant here because we have a minute and, yes, 1 minute. You can close down. I know you have a lot more things to say, but there's a lot of questions as well.
I think what's really important for the work that we're doing is that for the individual citizen, there's now a great deal more certainty in terms of Dominica's future because this plan shows on a very clear map what's supposed to be happening around the country in terms of what land uses are organized and planned for in different areas and what you're allowed to do. And so that makes it very simple to understand where we're headed for the future. Again, if you're going to be developing or investing in Dominica, there's now clear rules for that. And the government is actually much further ahead than many other Eastern Caribbean governments, because by having a plan that lays out its approach for the future, it can now access funding that it would otherwise have much more difficulty getting access to. This puts Dominica on the leading edge right now of countries in the Eastern Caribbean, and it is something I think really overall we can all, as citizens of Dominica, be proud of what we've achieved.
Annie?
All I'd like to say is that this is a 20-year plan, and it's not going to happen overnight. It's going to be a phased situation. For instance, if you're living in a vulnerable area, you might not be able to, develop, or if you really want to develop there, then you have to design in a particular way. So it's really guidance for us in the future, and I mean, it has to go. It's 20 years. So it's really up to us in this generation to start looking at this plan, so that our children and our grandchildren and so on will also follow suit on it. So we shouldn't just bang the plan. It's a Dominica plan, and there's something in it for everyone. So I'd like to encourage other persons who didn't get an opportunity to come out to the UWI Center at 7 o'clock this evening. We have a town hall meeting when the entire thing will be presented, and we'll also be on DBS Radio tomorrow morning.
Well, I want to say, lady, gentlemen, it was a pleasure. As always, every time you come here, we kind of generate a lot of discussion. So we should do it more often. You agree with me, Zara?
Yes. After the consultant is gone, we'll do some more public awareness.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure.
Pleasure.
Thank you. Next year, Flo, Dig Your Cell Hour, the Dig Your Cell Hour.